Welcome to the Behind the Drapes podcast. I'm your host, Expo Rich, and we're recording here at the Expo EXPO show floor here in Houston. My guest, David Audrain, man has worn many hats over his career. I'm very honored for you to be here with me today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Rich, it's always an honor to be with you, and I'm very happy to be part of your podcast.
And for a few years now, I've been trying to get this lined up, and it's almost like when I'm going to ask you, that's the event you're not going to be at. So now that we got it dialed in, I'm happy you're here. And I started this podcast because I wanted to start talking about the people in our industry that are creating these amazing marketplaces that all of these people do business at, and we don't often step back and realize like the magic that we're building. And then we're creating, companies are being born and grown right under our tutelage, and we have all this responsibility with them. Mm-hmm. And that the next thing is the people that all make that happen. And that's kind of why I wanted to have this platform to talk about those people, and you're one of those people. So,
well, thank you. I say very happy to be here.
And so I always like to start with, like, what was your origin story? How did you very first step into a show floor, and how did it even get on your radar?
Well, my story is, like many, very convoluted. Most of my generation, for sure, came into the industry by accident. And I still think a lot of that is accidental today. But
yeah.
I grew up in Europe. I lived in a little island of Jersey right off the French coast. I ended up in the financial software industry. I owned a small software business dealing with offshore tax havens all over Europe. Sold that business in the 80s, and I was actually an American-born, English father, American mother, born in Manhattan. Spent my whole 21-year formative years growing up in Europe, and so I moved to the U.S. in '89, and thought I was going to stay in the financial or software industry. Deal fell apart. Needed a job. Ended up doing a stint as a stockbroker for a year, one of the worst years in the investing industry, and then
89 wasn't a good year for me.
No, 89 was a very challenging year, but it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about sales. There is never a phone I won't pick up, and there's never a call I won't make. So that experience was fundamental. And then I ended up with the Texas Restaurant Association, and I ended up running their membership sales for a couple of years. They think a great job. I had a fun time. I grew up around the restaurant industry because my father and grandfather had a greengrocer's business in the island. So, I was delivering fruit and veg to hotels and restaurants when I was a kid. Barely walk, I'm sure. And so I liked that industry and got into the association side of it. And they had a great show.
Yeah,
they had a trade show 200 show back then in the early 90s, and the guy who was running it left suddenly, and not quite particularly amicably with the CEO, and left literally overnight, a couple of months before the show.
Oh, wow!
And his team had changed right away as well, so there was really nobody there to run the show.
Yeah.
And I went to the CEO and who I had a good relationship with, and I said, you got nobody else that knows any more than I do. So, and I can sell, and I can, I know the industry. So let me have a go.
Yeah.
And
it's a great pitch.
And it worked, and he convinced him. And so I ran the 1993 Texas Restaurant Association show. Was my first show in Dallas, Texas. And my second one was here in Houston.
Oh, wow.
So I've known Luther here since then. And in 5 years, I doubled the size of the show to 170,000 net feet. And Galen Post came and offered me a gig at Miller Freeman. And it's all been, a path since then.
Yeah. And so it's like your affinity with restaurants and food brought you right back to the seafood show.
Well, our New England Restaurant and Bar Show is again an offshoot of that whole segment that I've been around. Stephanie and I also launched some other restaurant shows years ago, right before COVID, or in the years before COVID, which we got rid of. So we've that, and we have our independent hotel show down in Miami as well, which obviously is a great client of yours, or you're a great supplier for us. And so those industries are ones that we feel an affinity to and understanding from. I admit fully that historically I've gravitated towards shows that I understand and I feel an affinity for.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to have some passion towards something, and not feels less like a job. When you're going something you're passionate about.
Well, it was funny. I saw an article. It's always been. I've got 19 and 21-year-old children, and they're getting their start soon in the world, and we all tell them, find your passion. And I saw a great article earlier that said from a guy who said it's not about finding your passion, it's about making your passion. It's about finding something you're good at, and you'll be passionate about it if you're good at it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And I think that's truly, I found this industry by accident, but I happen to be, okay at it, and it's therefore I became passionate about it because it's something that I like to do, and I enjoy doing, and then that's what I think a lot of us strive for.
You mentioned the sales thing and like working in the as a stockbroker and trying to sell like over the phone, and isn't it something that you don't realize how valuable that is until later, that when you're numb to being told no because of that. So like same thing with me. When I was 12 years old, I was going door to door selling newspaper subscriptions, and nobody really wanted to buy them anyway. So like 1,000 no's and probably 10 yeses, but I didn't know any different. I was like, so. Yeah,
I think it's good experience. I mean, when I was a kid, when I was 10, 12, I remember working in my father's greengrocer's business in the Central Market. I could barely see over the counters in the time back then. But I even remember weekends in the summer. Jersey was a tourist haven, and he'd have trays of strawberries left over on Saturday evening that hadn't sold and wouldn't be any good on Monday. And we'd literally take them home, and I'd go down to the beach that was 100 yards from our house on Sunday morning and basically selling them on the beach. It was, it was just that sort of experience. But the stockbroker gig, it definitely numbed me to no's. What was interesting also, though, is we would target salespeople as investment clients because they're conditioned for a yes. They want to say yes.
That's interesting.
And so it was always, if you could find somebody who was in sales, they're always looking for a yes. And so they were an easier target, hopefully, to get them to want to say yes as it goes through.
Good strategy.
But when I hire salespeople and things, the one thing that I am confident is that they've never had as many no's as I've had. So it's all about being willing to pick the phone up and keep calling.
There was this one mentor of mine. He had this great line that says, "If I told you that you were 25 no's before your first yes, would you be excited about racking up the no's?" And it's like, if you have in your head that you're going to get your yes back here, but you got to get through these. You're excited to get through them. So I was like that. So you mentioned Galen Poss, and as we go through our career, we kind of need somebody to like champion us and pull us up along the way. Who along the way were some of those mentors and the people that gave you those opportunities?
Well, Galen, most definitely. Not only because he hired me twice, because he gave me the opportunity at Miller Freeman back in the late 90s, where I took over a division in the manufacturing industry, Some Products and the Printed Sportswear Group. He gave me not only an opportunity to run a top 50 show. We had the Bobbin show back then, as well as a bunch of smaller shows, but also some publications that I learned a lot about the publishing business, which has been instrumental going forward. But then I went with him to Hanley Wood exhibitions, and I was part of the team that we started Hanley Wood exhibitions up as well. And those were great experiences that we went through. And then Chuck Schwartz is another one. Chuck and I were partners back in 2001 through 5, running the SEMA show and a lot of other automotive aftermarket shows. Another really passionate industry. Something I really learned about passionate communities for shows are definitely worth their weight in gold. I ran, I run the SEMA show, I ran the magic and the fashion sector, and the Bobbin show was a huge manufacturing industry show.
Yeah.
And it's, in some sectors, it's very hard to imagine how people could be passionate about particular products.
Yeah, because you talk about manufacturing, and someone's lifestyle isn't manufacturing, but you talk about SEMA, that's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
You live it every day, they drive it, they love it,
Yeah, that community is truly passionate about the sector they're in, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the apparel manufacturers are quite as passionate about it, but obviously they are. They still work extremely hard at that sector, and they go through it. So it's finding the core components to each market that really. It's why we develop advisory boards for every show that we of buyers that we build in, and most people do, because that gives you that core group that you can then build from, of people that are passionate about their industry.
Yeah, definitely. And so here we are, rounding out the year.
Yep.
Getting into 2026. So you have a whole portfolio of shows. So what's a couple of the most exciting things you have about next year? Like, what are you really jazzed to get out of bed about?
Well, I think I'm lucky in that I get to work with my partner, who happens to be also my wife, and Stephanie and I. We probably don't separate work and home as much as we should, but it is something that I value greatly, that we get to work together and build our business together. And that's now in our 14th year. So we've focused on, we scaled back after I left CISO, and we scaled back on a lot of the shows where we were really just the hired help, and just providing management services to the core group of shows that we own. And that gives us something to make sure that we're focusing on what's really meaningful.
Yeah, you're not spread too thin now.
So instead of trying to be all things to all people, we're focused very much on the communities that actually mean something to us.
Yeah.
We are very excited about the show we work together on. Our independent hotel show in Miami is, we just wrapped up our 3rd edition of it. What I like about it the most is we're in a very sweet niche for that market. The hotel industry is obviously a great sector, but the best part of it for the last recent years, and what everybody in the industry seems to think is the best part going forward, is the luxury boutique independent sector. That's where the most money is being invested. That's where people are willing to spend the most money to experience. They don't just want a room, they want an experience. They want to go somewhere, if they're not there on business, they want to go somewhere where they can enjoy themselves, experience something new and different. And that's the sector that our show is focused on. And so we feel very good about the fact that we're in that particular niche, and that's the sector that we hope to continue to build that show on. And Miami is a great location for it.
Definitely. And I mean, when you think about it, like, they never stop building hotels. They just continue to.
And they're getting bigger and fancier all the time. There's I say the hotel industry has very different segments. You have the low end, just a room for the night boxes that are all over the country. And then you have the luxurious, high-end, highly visible, extremely service-oriented luxury properties that people want to stay at. They could get a room anywhere that'll serve a function of providing them with a bed and a roof over their head, but they want an experience. And that's more and more, as people have resources and the ability to travel more and more, they want those experiences.
Definitely.
And then our New England restaurant and bar shop in Boston is focused on the industry that I've been closest to my whole career, and on the restaurant and food service sector. And the restaurant industry's had a tougher time, especially since COVID. And so we do feel that we bring. It is the only event in New England that really does provide that marketplace that you talked about at the beginning, of really providing small companies with that ability to get face-to-face with their customers. And that's why our industry will always grow and always succeed, because there is nothing better. If you're a smaller company, if you're Microsoft, you can do whatever you want to do. But that's not the majority out there. Majority of industry is small businesses, it's on scrappy entrepreneurs. And over these decades that I've been in this business, I've lost count of how many small exhibitors, first-time exhibitors that I've come across at my own shows and other shows, that their entire marketing strategy could be just one show, or it might be multiple shows. I've met companies where they do 20 shows a year, and that's their entire marketing strategy, or they do one, and that's what they get their business from. So we do provide a vital resource to those smaller businesses.
Absolutely, yeah, because like we say, you can travel and visit 100 customers, or you could go to the place where 100 customers are going to be.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like, you're going to get more bang for your buck doing that.
And that's, I would probably say the most frustrating aspect of our business is still the fact that the majority of exhibitors are not very good at what they do. That's just the fact of it.
You mean that closing at a show? Like they might be good at building this product, but then trying to get that customer and connection.
As an exhibitor, they may be a great business, but as an exhibitor, they fail. And they fail because, one, we still know that the majority of exhibitors do a crappy job of following up even on the leads they actually collect. We know that most exhibitors do a crappy job of actually trying to set up any meetings or prepare for the show. They just show up and expect serendipity to, miraculously drop business.
I'm going to bring my net and just scoop up all this business, right?
And it is frustrating because they say, well, it's your job to bring the buyers. Well, yes, to some degree, but
we bring the buyers.
We bring buyers, but we may not bring the right buyers for you because you're not helping us to identify those. And so I have lots of conversations with exhibitors throughout the years, always talking to them about, think of it as a temporary showroom. Think of it as you've got an opportunity in 2 days to have more meetings than you could have in a month with the right people. And all you have to do is give them a reason to come and see you. And that reason is very simple. We know for a fact that the number one reason attendees, buyers come to shows is to look for new products and suppliers. That's the number one. Doesn't matter what industry, every industry. So tell them what you've got. Tell them why they should come and see you. It's really not that hard. But they still do a bad job of it. So that's my pet peeve.
So maybe that'll be yours and my project going forward. Like how do we fix that?
And we're trying. We've got a program we started this last year, our Connections Concierge program, which is working one-to-one with the exhibitors to help them identify the key target prospects they want to meet with and why they should meet with them. And what is your new product? Who do you think has a need for this particular new product of yours or old product of yours? And why should they want to sit down with you so that we can connect them and help them work together?
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. It's pretty easy to do this with you because you're such a wealth of knowledge and experience. So thank you so much.
Always fun.